What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. So the Golden State Warriors aren't doing too hot right now. They're sitting at 17 and 19 right now, which shout out the Lakers too, also having a losing record. I don't think any of us necessarily expected that going into the season, but they're currently not even in the play-in, and so I think it's worth talking about why this is happening and what maybe they can do to make a change. So as we said, they're sitting at the 11 seed right now, which isn't even good enough to get in the play-in, and they're half a game behind the Lakers, who are that last play-in team spot. After that, there's actually like a decent little jump of a game and a half to get back up to the Suns, who I have to imagine the Suns are going to kind of start to figure things out if they can ever get all three of those guys on the court together. I just have a hard time imagining that three losing. But anyway, we're talking about the Warriors, and it hasn't been good for them. They don't look like they're clicking on many aspects of what we're used to with the Golden State Warriors, and there's a couple reasons why, right? And a lot of it has to do with this roster makeup. We can take a look at just some basic numbers here of just like per game numbers. And if I didn't put any names on this side of the screen here and you were just looking at like things like points and stuff, you'd say, wow, they have good players and then a whole bunch of just kind of nonsense going on around the rest of the roster. And that's unfortunately where they're at right now. We can start with Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson had a rough start to what we're used to, right? We're used to him just being an absolute flamethrower, running around the court, working off the floppy actions, getting every single three-pointer up, making them, playing great defense, right? The defense has fallen off a little bit. He's getting older. That's what happens. But the three-point shot's the one that you would think would kind of be timeless, and it wasn't there. But we all knew that everything would regress to the mean anyway. And you can see here that it pretty much has. I mean, he's up to about 38% on 8.5 attempts a game. You'll take that out of any other player, and I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to go up. He has been hitting pretty often recently. The next player that you look at, though, is Andrew Wiggins, and that's where the fall off has really taken place. Crazy to think just like 2 years ago, this guy was an all-star. It was kind of a weird all-star appearance slash nod. He kind of got the Draymond Green nod where they're like, yeah, we know that this guy is that impactful on the court, so we're giving it to him. But I mean, this is a guy that's normally 17, 18, damn near 20 points a game throughout his career pretty religiously, and all the way down to like 11, 12 points a game. And the efficiency is just horrible. It's not good, right? And there's been a lot of off the court stuff going on with Andrew Wiggins apparently, and so we wish him the best. But Andrew Wiggins has been a complete shell of himself. He doesn't even really look like he's doing too much out there. He kind of looks like he's just going through the motions, at least in my opinion. And I don't know, that's a tough one, right? Because you're paying him a ton of money to be a very, very good player on this team. I mean, part of the reason they won that last championship was because Andrew Wiggins just did so much of everything, especially on like the rebounding end. And you see the rebounding numbers. This is a low for him. So you see things like that, and that just leads me to believe that like something's just not quite right with him, because you don't just see a player fall off like this out of nowhere. Obviously, then we can address Draymond Green, right? Draymond Green decided that he would rather be a pro wrestler this season, and his antics, I always say that you need players like this on your team, guys that are going to do some crazy shit like that. Just because, I don't know, I feel like you kind of need a bruiser. I think there's a position for this in hockey or something like that. But I think just having a guy like that to kind of set the tone and the intensity for your team goes a long way. And that's been the role for Draymond Green. But there is obviously kind of an inflection point where things become too much, and now you're a detriment to the team, and he has been a complete detriment to this team this year. It's actually like really frustrating to watch, because he does have a lot of skill, right? He still is he's a good defender, right? He's a good passer, he's a good rebounder and stuff, even for his size and his athletic ability. But he's just not doing it this year because he can't stay on the court, and he's putting the team in more poor situations than good ones. So, you look at like the Klay Thompsons, the Wiggins, the Greens are putting a lot of money in these guys to help a Steph Curry that's still playing incredible basketball, and you say, why do we want these guys on the team this year? Klay obviously is one that'll probably work itself out one way or another, but like the Wiggins and the Draymond, you hate to see those guys, especially Draymond Green, go or something, but are those guys that you start to look at to move? The last one then we'll talk about with just as far as kind of like the core players. Chris Paul obviously has been a decent part of the team this year, right? Getting the 7 assists, 9 points. He's really taken kind of that backseat role finally, but like still like an effective basketball player for all sense of the word. But now he's going down with a hand injury, and it's like, oh man, like now you don't have him on the court. And so almost like that's got to be like 70% of your salary or something, like isn't really playing up to expectations or anything, if not more. So it's just not a recipe for success, right? You can't be surprised that they're not playing well. They haven't quite figured out the Chris Paul Steph Curry combo either. I mean, you can look at some of their like lineup numbers, right? And an interesting note, the Warriors are the only losing team with a positive plus minus, which leads you to believe that they can still be better, but that's a whole nother thing. But you look at some of the lineup data, and like none of the best lineups are like with Chris Paul and like Curry on the court together. And when your sixth man or whatever can't play with your star player ever, there's a cap on things, right? There's only so far that you can go as a team. Looking at the rest of the roster, then you've got such like a weird array of players kind of around this core. Then like, and there's two gaps in the roster, right? There's a problem at center, which has always been a problem for the Warriors throughout like this entire dynasty. You don't maybe count, like Andrew Bogut was kind of like the best that it got, and we love Kevon Looney, right? We love his defensive prowess, like his switchability and everything. Like he's a tough-minded player, but there's limitations when you don't have an athletic guy that can go and block shots, right? That can go up above the rim, that can contest with some of these bigger dudes that exist in the league, because there's a lot of real big athletic dudes jumping around now that can go out and shoot threes as well. It's a real dynamic position at this point, and they don't have a guy like that, right? Like they've got like an interesting kind of combo going on with like the Dario Saric, Kevon Looney thing. Like you can kind of give different looks where one's a lot more defensive oriented, one can space the floor, and Saric, who's had a quality season, has been a little bit down recently, but they've kind of taken his minutes away. But it's just weird that they don't have that they don't have a center like that, and they haven't been able to find one throughout this whole like kind of stint of their glory. The other thing is like a lack of depth at like the wing position. Like it hurts, especially that Wiggins isn't playing well right now, but like Kuminga hasn't been able to turn into like that type of wing player. Moody hasn't developed into something like that. And there isn't like that 3-and-D player on the team right now. And those are two of the most important things in basketball right now, is having like a rim protector and some 3-and-D guys around your star shooters. It's just not a well-constructed roster. We can talk about some of the young guys then as well, as we just watched Moody miss that shot and everything. But you look at some of these young guys, and the comments are starting to come out where like Kuminga's unhappy, Moses Moody isn't happy, right? And people are starting to say like, hey, Steve Kerr, like we haven't seen him really develop a young player outside of Jordan Poole. Up to this point, right? And there's the four players that you're kind of looking at in this. You're looking at Kuminga first, you're looking at Moody, and then you're looking at Jackson Davis, right? And then you're looking at pods. Let's start with Kuminga first. So Jonathan Kuminga is a guy that can put the ball on the floor. He's very strong. He's very athletic, things like that. Hasn't developed like any sort of jumper yet. And that's kind of where the issue starts, right? Is Kuminga wants to be a bigger part of this team. He's got like a real dynamic skill set, but I feel like he's been like kind of the same player he has been since he got in the league. Like the only real difference is that he's maybe gotten better at ball handling. Like, that's kind of it, which is great, right? Because he is big, strong, athletic. He can go the length of the court and stuff. He's a strong finisher. That's awesome. But like, I don't know what kind of role that is. Like you're like a poor man's Giannis then. And I don't think that needs to be a thing. Like we just don't need that. And so when is he going to get the chance to develop into something more, right? And how does he get that opportunity with guys like Clay, Steph, and Draymond having the ball so much, right? And that's what's worked for them. And so that's where the struggle begins. You look at Moses Moody then looking to get the ball over there, and Moody's just kind of been a spot shooter most of this time. He's getting a little bit of ball handling responsibility there, but is it ever really more than him just hitting guys on these floppy actions that you're seeing here? Shout out Corey Joseph being on the court too. Why do we need another point guard out there? I don't know. This is part of the thing with the rotations, right? Of them having like 2 point guards on the court. Sometimes they're going with like a Kevon Looney and like a Trace Jackson Davis or something like that. And it's just like, what a weird like combo of players to have out there. It's not something I completely understand. All right, we could talk about Jackson Davis now. So Jackson Davis, what position does he play, man? I know he's started at center like a couple times recently, and we see him crashing to the boards there. He gets a lot of rebounds. He's been finishing around the rim pretty solid and everything. I believe his field goal percentage is actually really good. I think that's in part to people don't really guard him, and they're like, who the fuck is this guy? But, he's fighting hard when he's playing, and that's awesome. My problem with him is I don't know what skill set I'm trying to develop out of him. Like, yeah, he's strong strong and he's finishing around the rim. Like that time he didn't right there. But like, I don't know, because he doesn't shoot. He does not shoot at all unless he's like right next to the rim. But he's not like a run, jump, and dunk center either. Like he's not that athletic. He's not like coordinated enough to put the ball on the floor or anything. He's not really a passer. He's just kind of a hustle rebounder. Like his footwork is solid there, but like, you know, if he's going up against a real shot blocker or anything, he's not going to be effective. It's just the Raptors don't really have something like that, like in this game. So I don't know what his role is long term. He seems like more of like a guy that should be like, he needs to be taller to play the role that he's playing essentially. And I don't know. Like, you love these hustle plays, but I don't know where it goes long term. I don't see him necessarily becoming anything that big. And y'all can clip this if I'm wrong, but I don't see something long term here. Then we can talk about Pods. I love Pods. Wasn't too aware of him, honestly, coming into the league. Like, wasn't a guy that I watched too often. I think he was Santa Clara, if I remember. But man, he's a very fundamental player, right? He's fit right into their system. He can do the off ball. He can do the on ball. He pushes the ball in transition. He grabs a lot of rebounds. They list him at 6'5". He doesn't look 6'5". Like, I'm 6'5", and I feel like I'm a lot bigger and broader and stronger than he is. But who knows, right? I have a bulkier build or whatever, but it's interesting, right? Like he plays a very interesting game. He's very much a hustle guy. He does all the little things well. He's a nice player. He's going to be like a nice backup guard for this team, which is really nice. It's really nice to just kind of have like that floor general kind of TJ McConnell type off the bench just to kind of keep things balanced. Shout out Jackson Davis on that role there. But I don't know. I like those young guys, and we'll see how Pods develops and stuff and Jackson Davis. But getting back to the original point, we're not seeing development out of these young guys, and I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm not surprised they might want to be traded and everything because they're not winning. And if you're not playing and not winning, and you think you should be, that's recipe for disaster, man. We can talk about some of the trade rumors then. Like, they've been connected to a heap of players, right? Basically like Pascal Siakam, which you see him guarding Kuminga there, and those are honestly two guys that might get traded for each other. Like Lauri Markkanen type things or something, maybe like a Clint Capella from Atlanta. I see a lot. With the idea being, you know, you have tradable contracts, right? And like an Andrew Wiggins or something that you can pile with a draft pick, and like a Moses Moody, and you can go get like a really good player with that. Kuminga, people are going to be interested in Kuminga, right? But what does this team need at the end of the day? I'd love for them to find like a new like center. It's like I said, Kevon's awesome. I love the things that Kevon Looney can do, but he's incomplete at the end of the day. Jackson Davis is playing well right now, but it doesn't matter. It's not translating to winning anyway, and he's not in any of their like better lineups in terms of efficiency data anyway. So just kind of look at it as what it is right now. And then Saric, I think, is a cool option. I like that as an option. But again, you're missing a very critical player in like rebounder, shot blocker, rim runner with this team. With all this shooting that you want to have and everything, that's what you need. And then scoring defensive wing that can space the floor a little bit. We need that right now. It's supposed to be Wiggins, but it's not. So what can we get? OG Anunoby maybe would have been like an option or something. That would have been so cool because OG Anunoby's so great off ball. And you're already seeing the connection of him and Dante DiVincenzo, who learned a lot about how to like play with off ball guys from playing on the Warriors. You see those two, they have the best connection on the Knicks already. It's awesome. And I would have liked to have seen him on here. But, you know, let's say you added a Pascal Siakam or something, like, I don't know how well that works or whatever. I don't necessarily think that's the answer, is adding a guy like Siakam. I mean, maybe they're trying to move a Draymond Green too because he is too much of a detriment. I'd find that a little bit hard to believe. I just don't think they want to trade that for like cohesiveness purposes. People like the Warriors fans generally like Draymond. Maybe not as much this year, but, you know, give him time to win him back. It'll happen quick. Like, Draymond's done a lot for this team, right? So I don't know, like, you need players like that. I think a Lauri Markkanen would be kind of interesting. You'd have to let him like handle the ball more. I'd be really actually curious to see them like put the ball in Lowry's hands and then let like Steph, Clay and them work off of it. I just think that'd be interesting. Like, that's probably one of the few ways Markkanen could be traded and still kind of keep the ball in his hands a lot of the time. So that would be an interesting one to look at. But otherwise, this team's going to be making moves at the deadline. Mike Dunleavy's already made it very clear with the Jordan Poole, like Chris Paul deals and stuff that he's trying to maximize it, which he should. The greatness that Steph Curry still has. He's still a great player. You've got some solid role players on this team. Klay Thompson's coming back. Saric is looking good. Pod's on the court looking good, right? Chris Paul's going to come back at some point. You're not going to be able to move Chris Paul. So, but it's not like he's a negative on the team. So you've got the dudes. It's just how do you take the situation that is like Wiggins, Kuminga, Moody, guys like that and turn it into something that can help you right now. And I don't know what player that is the thing. I don't know. But they're going to try to make something happen. I'd be curious to see what it is. I wonder if they can bring like a Harrison Barnes back or something. Like, I don't know. That'd be kind of interesting. Like, he's already kind of played in this system and just does his job well. A Harrison Barnes would be kind of a nice pickup for them. But otherwise, like, I'd love to see a Clint Capella on here or something. I don't know. You guys tell me. But that's kind of what I'm looking at with the Warriors right now. It's just kind of a jumbled mess. And we knew this coming into the year. The roster just didn't quite look right. Obviously, we're being surprised by some guys like Pods here and stuff. But, man, like, shout out Kuminga right here. Yeah, I knew that one was going in. He set his feet really well there. But I wish we could see some development out of these guys. I understand they're frustrated and everything, and I'd like to see them go somewhere where they could get a little more opportunity. So we'll see what the Warriors do at the deadline. They're going to be making a move soon, and you guys let me know what you'd like to see, especially if you're a Golden State fan. And I don't want to hear you complain too much either if you're a Golden State fan. You've had it great. I'm a Bulls fan, and it's just been sadness. I'm just sad all the time. Because I'm also a Bears fan, and they just lost to the Packers last night, and I'm sad about that too. But anyway, back onto the Warriors. Hope to see them get better. Like, I always want to see the Warriors in the playoffs. It's not the playoffs without them, and just seeing their style of basketball. So let's hope they get it figured out, y'all. And let me know what team we should talk about next. There's a lot going on. We'll talk about some more rumors later in the week and everything. But otherwise, make sure y'all subscribe. YouTube has told me that I need to say that more so that people subscribe to me. So, yeah. Do that, I guess. Leave a comment. I love comments. Like, that's really good for my algorithm, but I also just love talking about it in the comments. We've got some nice, like, discourse going on now. We're having very respectful conversations. We're talking data. We're talking what we're seeing on the court, things like that. It's great discourse, man. I will respond to every comment. I promise y'all. Let me hear it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and we'll see y'all later. Deuces.